saw him in France, meeting with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, meeting with President Zelensky from Ukraine. Scott, I know I talked to you the day it was happening, but it was striking because he is not the sitting president. He is the president-elect right now, and yet here he was meeting with these world leaders.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and yeah, he's the de facto president of the United States. And was there more to that audio? And I started talking? All right, let's play it again then. Or pick it up where it is. Can you pick it up where it was? No?
Looking quite presidential over the weekend.
There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, the country of the United States has moved on. The world has moved on. Donald Trump doesn't take office until January, but you can see the rest of the world is already treating him like he is the power center of the United States. And so I'm glad he went. This cathedral reopening is a huge deal to so many people around the world, Catholics, Christians. It's a historical moment. It was also a chance for him to talk to some of our biggest allies, people he's going to have to be coordinating with on some of these problems that Joe Biden is leaving behind. Donald Trump is hitting the ground running. I mean, he's already out doing the things that we need him to do to get the country back on track. So between his interview with Meet the Press, you can see here that Donald Trump is not going to have a passive presidency. This is going to be an active start to this presidency. And the rest of the world responds to leadership. We've not had a strong president. We have one now. Everybody knows it.
It is the Martha Zoller Show. He took a breath before. You know me. I'll get right in on the breath. But Scott Jennings is like, I know Shondell rolls her eyes about Scott Jennings, but to me, he is like the voice of conservatism right now. He's not a shill for Donald Trump, okay? He criticized Donald Trump when Donald Trump was doing things wrong, but he is the voice of conservatism right now. And he is going into the lion's den. He is on CNN. He is now on the editorial board of the LA Times, okay? Because LA had several districts within their area go Republican, okay? There was a 10-point shift in California from Democrat to Republican. You know, this has been happening in the New York area for a while, and they're not responding. Well, they are responding. Let me tell you how they're responding. The New York Times subscriptions are down, and the New York Sun and the New York Post are up. And people want to say they're, tabloids or whatever, but the bottom line is people aren't reading newspapers much anymore. But they are reading the New York Post. They are reading the New York Sun. They are reading online News Nation and other options. People are hungry. I heard Barry Weiss from Honestly. Barry Weiss was the woman who was hired by the New York Times after they got it so wrong in 2016 to kind of point out to them what they were getting wrong. And she's not a righty. She's far from it. She's more like a center kind of person. But she talked about Ground News, and you guys might remember that I used to interview the folks from Ground News on a regular basis. And I want to talk about Ground News again because it's a great app to use. They're finally monetizing it, okay? And I don't know how that goes because I've gone through this before. My mom said you shouldn't give it away for free because then nobody will pay for it. And she was talking about something different. But it is true as far as your content. If you give it away for free, then people won't pay for it. The best example of this is Rush Limbaugh. The only thing you got for free from Rush Limbaugh was the radio show, okay? Everything else you had to pay for. For years into the digital age, he had a newsletter that you would subscribe to and you would get delivered to you and you would read it because it was different content than what you got on the radio show. He monetized his website from the beginning. Bill O'Reilly's that way too. Bill O'Reilly makes a buck off of anything that he does. The biggest mistake I've probably made in my career is I gave way too much away for free. But the reason was I had plans to run for Congress, and I did that in 2012. So I looked at everything I did as a way to lay the groundwork to run for Congress because I really wanted to do that. And I really still feel like I would have been a great member of Congress, and I would have gotten a lot of these big things done. But God knew, that was what Martha wanted to do. I'm talking about God a lot today, but it's just one of those days. Martha knew what Martha wanted to do, okay? But God knew that my husband was going to have cancer twice. God knew that our oldest grandson was going to have a condition called ITP. He didn't cause it, but he knew it. And he knew that my place was not in Congress at that particular time. Okay? And I feel like I've done more in helping other people get elected and also giving my advice to other people getting elected. Okay, I need to cough here, Logan. We're going to get a cough button in here in a minute someday. But I knew what Martha wanted. Martha, from the time, and I know I'm talking about myself in the third person. It reminds you of Bob Dole, doesn't it? Martha, from the time I can remember, my dad was telling me I was going to be the first woman president of the United States. My dad was a big dreamer, okay? He would tell my sister she was going to be an Olympic swimmer. My brother was going to be a major league pitcher. My other sister was going to be an Olympic track runner. I had no athletic skills. I still have no athletic skills, okay? And so he had to find something for me. So for me, it was, you're going to be the first woman president of the United States. And from the time, and again, I don't remember this, these are stories I've been told, but I always watched the news. When I was a little baby in a crib, in a playpen, remember those playpens that looked like jails? They don't have them anymore because I guess kids got their heads caught in the rails. I don't know. But it looked like a little jail. And I'd be in there sitting there. And believe me, there was no children's television on. This business of catering to your children about what they want to watch, that did not happen in the 60s. And when I was when I was an infant and growing up, you watched what your parents watched, or else you didn't watch television, or you went and played with your blocks or something, okay? That's just the way it was. The idea that you were going to have a TV for the kids, no, that was not going to happen. So I would sit there, and if it was entertainment kind of television, I would play in my playpen, all that kind of stuff. And then when the news would come on, I would start watching. So I think this is kind of embedded into me. My theory is I liked the faces. Okay, if you notice, if you're ever raising a baby, that they are very attracted to faces. You can actually get them to watch the news when they're really young, because basically what is the news? It's a big face on the screen talking to you, right? So that's my theory, is that initially you get drawn to the kind of faces, the live television, and then we poison our kids with animation. And, that's just one of those things. That's one of those things. You can join us on the phones at 770-535-2911. You can also text us at that number. Look, we are in an amazing place right now. And I want to separate party away from this, okay? Because Donald Trump is not a traditional Republican. He has reshaped the Republican Party, but he is not a traditional Republican, nor is he a traditional conservative. Listen to what he says, not what people say about him. Listen to what he says. He's very reasonable. Let's talk. He brought up the Dreamers again. In 2017, he offered Nancy Pelosi. Now, what Nancy Pelosi wanted was the 800,000 Dreamer kids to get amnesty. He offered $2.2 million, so he included the parents, the Dreamers and the parents, which actually makes sense. You gonna legalize a kid that's underage, that was brought here by their parents, and you're not going to let the parents stay too? That made sense. It was compassionate. Okay? Jensen Franklin said on this program that Donald Trump didn't have the compassion genes sometimes, but on this, he did. So he offers her in exchange for $5 billion for the wall. I was talking to a Democratic operative this morning about this issue because he brought up the Dreamers again in this interview with Meet the Press. And she said they should have taken that deal. That was a good deal, and we would have solved this problem. Hence, I'm using the word hence, nobody really wanted to solve that problem. I think what people are going to get in Donald Trump is that he does want to solve the problems. Okay? He wants to solve the problems, though, while he's president. It's true that he interfered just a little bit on some things that maybe could have been done before he became president. He wants to get things done while he's president. He's talking about the Dreamers again. That's a compassionate thing. This is still a problem. I will never forget 25 years ago, a girl calls up from Colombia, who was originally from Colombia, and talks to Rush. And Rush was a hardline illegal immigration person, But he talked to this girl, and she said, Rush, my parents brought me here when I was 2 years old. I'm 35 years old now. I have gone to elementary school, high school, college, graduate school, married and have a family in the United States. I don't even speak Spanish anymore. I'm an American. And you know what? He responded to that. He understood that argument. It was a truthful statement. So he's going to deal with the dreamers, but then pay attention. Pay attention to what Tom Homan says and not what the media is saying about him. And quite frankly, it's media that's nobody's listening to or reading. So you should just disregard it anyway. But Tom Homan's going to do three things. He's going to deport the people that have already gotten deportation orders. That is not mass deportation. That's not rounding up, because when you say that, you elicit an image of going door to door. That's not going to happen. These people have already been adjudicated and gotten a deportation order. They should not be here by law. Second, criminal illegal aliens focusing on felonies and violent crime. Number two. Three, find these kids, these 300,000 kids that are out here, because I just want to speak to my very left-leaning audience here, because I know about 20% of you out there is. And I know you were part of the Me Too movement, and I know you were part of the women's liberation movement. I want you to listen to me. Why are you not up in arms about 21st century slavery of human trafficking in this country? I think that's something we could agree on. I've tried to get an answer from John Ossoff on this. I've tried to get an answer from Raphael Warnock on this. We should be united that these children being trafficked throughout this country is an abomination, and it is 21st century slavery. That should not be an issue. It should be our number one issue. We'll be back.